If you took youth protection training in the past, it is easily assumed that the new safeguarding youth training is the same, but it isn't, and it's important. Hey, ScouterStan, let's talk about this very serious subject of safeguarding youth. The YPT in the past, and I've taken it a lot. I've been in scouting for a while, and every 2 years and every year for a while, I was taking that training, and it was a lot of things that were very procedural. This is more of a safeguarding point of view, so it's more important, especially now. Scouting has had some problems, okay? That's something that's there. And we need to make sure that we have the skills in line for the adult leaders so that safeguarding the youth becomes a priority. And it's very important. Scouting is not immune to all the legal issues and all the different things that comes up. So it's important that we make sure that our adult leadership has the skills, the training that's needed to safeguard our youth. That is really the core of the entire thing. There is a lot of lessons learned from the old, what they used to call the YPT, the Youth Protection Training. There's a lot of lessons that have been learned from that. And the things that worked have been kept. With YPT, there was a lot of rule compliance, certain things. If those things work, they're still around. Those things are still important. But we've gone into more of a culture of safeguarding youth. That is the key to this new training. Now, the big comparison between the old and the new training. The old training really focused on certain procedural things that needed to be done. Very mechanical in the way that it worked. Whereas in the new, it's more of a focus on developing a culture that watches out for the scout, in addition to the things in the past. So it's kind of adding in a far more comprehensive focus on safety. There is an update on the social media, the internet, all of that kind of things. That's a new update on the safeguarding training that's going on. There's also a more of a core influence on actually doing reporting. If there's an issue there that should be reported, that is a big thing in this training. They talk about when those things need to occur. Privacy should still be a focus for scout leaders to make sure that the scouts are safe and guarded from any exposures that might have actually happened in the past. We need to prevent all of that as much as possible. It also clarifies a lot of the who is responsible. That's a big thing that's covered in the training. Now, another major thing is that this training is only good for 1 year. You need to be taking it if you've not completed your training in the past year or so. So all of it is very important. Safeguarding youth is a focus of scouting, and we need to be compliant in making sure that this training is done with all adults. Now, when you do the online training, make sure you make notes, because there is a test at the end that you have to pass in order to get that certification of safeguarding youth. Now, you might be asking, what has changed? There are small changes that have been made, but you have to take the training to find out. But in a nutshell, youth protection training, the old training, actually had a lot of very common sense things like the buddy system, the 2 deep leadership. Those things are still in place. There is a reporting procedure that is gone over in all the different modules of the training. And that reporting process is very important to understand as a youth adult leader. What is still in place is the barriers to any kind of abuse. There's no such thing as a one-on-one meeting with an adult and a youth. That is always done to deep leadership. That has still in place even with this new training. So that's very important. And that's true not only for in the realm of being there, but also ethereally on the internet. That's another thing. Those are some big concepts that are very spelled out in this new training. Now, there is a video that I did a while back on the youth protection training myths. So definitely check it out. That's a video that a lot of that material is still true. So make sure that you check out those videos in addition. Now, there are gray areas that people get wrong. It happens. Questions like, if I'm the only adult available, what do I do? Well, first of all, you shouldn't put yourself in that situation. All adults need to be moving around and working as a team, like a leadership team should. And they have buddies in that team. So you should be working to deep leadership all the time. You should never have that occasion when that happens. Now, what counts as one-on-one contact? That would be a text or an email. That's one-on-one contact. No, it's not allowed. It's even in YPT, the old system, you had to include a parent. You had to include other adults in those high-tech technology responses back and forth. Phone calls. That's a huge thing. If you have a youth calling one of the adults or the other way around, there has to be more than just those two on the phone. You have to have two adults on that phone. So it's a three-way call to have that voice call. It's impossible for a youth to really stay within the guidelines to call on an adult leader individually. It has to be set up ahead of time. They have to have their parents on the phone too. So it's a three different things, so that there's at least two people, two adults on that phone with that youth. So those communications cannot occur without that being in there. You will notice that a lot of leaders leave at the bottom of their emails that if there's youth on this, they have to do this as a chain. So you always reply to it. You don't reply to anyone individually. That's so that the too deep leadership is maintained. The same thing is true when you're dealing with texting. Texting is very popular with youth, and I understand that. I like it myself, but it has to be a group text. Okay, they have to include their parent. They have to include another leader other than the one that they're contacting. So there has to be a group there. If you're an adult leader and you get a text from a youth, you can't automatically send them a note back. You have to send that note back with all of anything they said to you, along with you replying to them. That all has to be in that chain, and their parents need to be on there, and another adult leader that's had the training. Is so important to keep that all straight. One of the big questions is, am I required as an adult leader to report suspicions or confirmed abuse? Yes, on both. If you have the suspicion, there's a reason, and that needs to be brought up. And we hope that it's resolved and nothing is going on there. But if there's a suspicion, it needs to be brought in view of the reporting authorities. If you've witnessed that actual thing, then yeah, of course. But suspicion is also important. A lot of times you will see it on the news where they've had issues before that child was hurt with the parents or with other bad guys or bad gals. That's something you hear on the news a lot. If you report it, then the focus gets moved over to where it needs to be. And the authorities are the ones that need to do that. As a scout leader, just like a teacher or anyone that works with youth, we're required in almost every state of the country to report on suspicion or on actual incidents. Hey, before we go any further, I want to personally invite you to come to the Campfire Chat. We have this on the very first Sunday of each month, starting at 9 p.m. I also want to personally thank all of the supporters on Patreon. This is a great way to help out on what we do here. Also, I want to get you involved in the channel. You can join the channel by hitting the join button on any of the screens that you see. This will help you get more information about what is going on in our membership of our channel, and it's a great way to help us out. Definitely check out the big list here for your name. Mandatory reporting is a big part of this new training, and a lot of that is covered in each one of the modules. There are certain behaviors that need to be addressed immediately, but there's also reporting that goes along with that. So it's important as you work with youth to know that you are supposed to make a report on suspicious activity or abuse that's actually been seen. Now, a lot of scout leaders are kind of nervous about making those reports. In every state, required reporters of any kind of suspicious activity are protected legally. So don't worry about that part of it. What's more important is that the scout is safe, and we need to make sure that those reports are done appropriately. Protection that we do through that reporting is protected. So don't worry about issues that might come up with you. If it's done honestly, and it's expected, if it's done honestly and not maliciously, then it's fine. You will be fine in that report. But if you're not, if you're doing it to get back at somebody or something like that, you're going to have problems, okay? That's when you have problems. When you're trying to protect children, that's always the case. Now, in the past, it was you did your youth protection training, and then 2 years later you renewed it, and it was the same training. Little changes, but this is going to be different. And one of the big things that they're trying to do is have the basic for brand new leaders, brand new parents, brand new adult leaders coming in. That'll be for them. And then there'll be modules later for every year that would add into that. Now, it might be more training or less training, but you have to do the very first one, and that's the one that's there now. So a year from now, or probably another few months from now, they'll have updates. So this is something you need to check into. Make sure that you check your my.scouting.com or org.com. Make sure that you check that. That's important to make sure that you can be an adult leader. That's an important thing, to make sure that that training is online and your name is attached to it and you did the training. That's the important part. You have to do that, or you're not an adult leader. You got to take that train stripped off, okay? That's the important. Get trained. That's so critical to what we do in scouting. Now, how this training feels a little different. It's 90 minutes of interactive videos. They split off each one of the subjects, and then they'll have an overview, which is written out of what they're going to cover, and then after that they have a video, and it's very interactive. Make sure you have your cell phone available so that you can scan QR codes that are on the screen, so that you can get that information into your telephone, into your handheld device, so that you can do the reporting if need be. That's the thing. You need that type of thing. It's very interactive training. That training takes about 90 minutes, and that's all the videos and stuff. But there is a test at the end, so I recommend taking notes. Take your notes, just like any other course you do. Take your notes and make sure that it's an open notes test, okay? It's online, but you have to have a passing grade. Each of the modules will have the mandatory requirements for mandatory reporting. That'll actually be clarified in the video. That actually clarifies it. There might be even scenarios that they go through. There's a testimonial in there, which is amazing. So and stunning in many regards. So these are things that need to be trained and talked about. I noticed that there was kind of a tone shift from do it this way, this is the procedure, whatever, but it was more about what to do when it does happen. That's the tone shift that I recognized. There's more of that in the new training. Parents and leaders, this is something that I've been talking about for a long time with actually getting every adult, parents, behind the stage, backstage, the committee, even the chartered organization rep should take the training. All of your adult leaders, scout-facing leaders, ones that are like an assistant scoutmaster, a den leader, all of those parents that have their youth in the Cub Scouts or in the troop or in the crew or the sea ship, all of them should take this training. And I've been saying that for a very long time. In fact, there's the video. Definitely go there and check out that video that talks about youth protection training, the old stuff, which is no longer there, but everyone should take the new stuff, which is the safeguarding youth. Now, I know there are scouters out there that are thinking that there's going to be a lot of common complaints. They're going to say that this new training makes it more difficult to get parents involved. Not more than it was in the past. The parents need to step up. They need to do the right thing and help out the unit. They need to be that checkpoint for the leadership to make sure that the leadership are doing what they need to do. They need that training so that they know why there's a too deep leadership. That's a big paradigm change for a lot of youth, for a lot of the parents, for the youth. It's so important to understand why that training is critical and why are the scout leaders doing the too deep leadership. Why are they putting those things on their emails? That's a thing that needs to be understood. The parents need to understand that. They don't want their scout calling an adult leader without having them on the phone too. So it should be a 3 or 4, because you need too deep leadership. Could be that involved if you need that conversation. That's something that happens quite a bit in scouting. Now there's some old timers out there that are going to say, "Wow, we never needed that before." Yeah, we definitely needed that before. Believe me, it is quite evident that this training is absolutely critical to the goal of our number one mission: safety. Number one. There's no other goal ahead of that for an adult leader. We've always needed this training, and it's only gotten better. We've learned from the past, okay? And it's important. When I was a youth, I don't think there was youth protection training. I was extremely lucky to have good leaders. So that's not always the case everywhere you go. So that's a very important point to think about. We've always needed it. It's just better than it's ever been. Now, this old timers again are going to say, all this just assumes that everybody's guilty. No, not necessarily. But keep in mind, being cautious on safety, this is a safety issue. Being cautious is far more important than just assuming that everybody's guilty. No. What's important is making sure that the scouts are safe. That's the key. Without the training, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So you gotta do the training. Now that old timer again is gonna go, it's just a bunch of overkill. No, it's not. Safety is rule number one. We need to think about that. And that's true for adults and for behind the scenes and, of course, scout facing. They all need to be thinking about that safety. Safety is the key. And if that's overkill, we're guilty as far as that goes. Safety is rule one. It's job one of all adult leaders, all parents. Safety. And that in the bigger picture of everything going on, it is so important to understand that this training is critical to the number one goal. SAFE is an acronym, as we can see. S is for supervision, so important. Of course, assessment of any situation. Safety is job one, so we need to be thinking about any activities, any meetings, any kind of gathering, any of these adventures that we do as scouting. And of course, we have to consider the fitness and, of course, the skill level. Sometimes if you're going on an adventure, say for instance you're taking the Cub Scouts to the local fire department to see the fire trucks and all that stuff, you have to think about the distance from where you're going to park to the fire station, the things that they might be doing at the fire station. So there's certain things that they can't do because of physical or skills that they may not have, that the adventure crew is going to have a little more involved process there. So that's true with every activity out there. Then of course you have equipment and any kind of environment restrictions that you might have in your safety as a general thing. When you're going through the safety, you have to think of the equipment. So if you're going to do backpacking and some small climbing, you need to make sure that the equipment is appropriate and it works. Okay? If you're on a canoe trip, you need to make sure they all have a life vest. They all have helmets if there's white water involved, and have oars. And there's a lot of equipment that needs to be considered. And then you also have to think about the environment. Is it going to pour down rain? Is there a hurricane coming? If you're in South Florida like me, hurricanes are a big deal. These are things that you need to consider. So SAFE is very important. It's part of the new training. So it has been incorporated, and there's things there that you need to download. There's some paperwork and stuff that talks about this very subject. Now I do have some practical takeaways. There are three big parts that need to be thought about when doing the safeguarding youth training. First, if you've taken the youth protection training in the past and have not taken the safeguarding training, it will expire on May of 2026. It will expire. And at that point, you're no longer a trained leader. So you need to get this training done. All leaders are mandatory reporters. This is critical to keeping our youth safe. We have to safeguard them against bullying and abuse and neglect and all these things. These things, when they're noticed, even on a suspicion, you have to do them, you have to be reported. That's the thing. You're a mandatory reporter as an adult leader. All adult leaders are required to do this training. But all parents should be highly encouraged to also do this training. It's important that we have that backup, that check and balance type of system there, so that we have the adults knowing why the scout leaders are doing 2 deep leadership. It's important for that. Why, when they do a text, why is everybody instantly involved in that? There's a reason for that, and this helps the parent understand that your scout leaders are trying to safeguard your youth. That's very important. Now, there is one mind shift that needs to occur, and that is we need to be mindful of the behavior that's going on within the unit, whether it be a pack, a troop, a crew, or a ship. It is critical that the adults are actually observing that. So it's a mind shift. It's not just happening. You're watching those types of things for signals that need to be acted on. That's the thing. This training really helps bring that into focus. Yeah, we do a lot for our youth. This is just one of those things we have to do to be trained leaders. So please do it online. Do it now. If you haven't, please do it now. And always keep that in mind. There's a lot of things going on in scouting. In fact, if you have a chance, I do have a video that talks about youth-led troops. So definitely check it out. It's right there. And I'll see you on the trail.